Let's do one final example together. Premise number 1, not A and X. Premise number 2, Z or R implies T. Premise number 3, Z implies A. Premise number 4, T implies M. Your job is to get to R implies M. And what does that mean? That means, of course, you're going to add to what you know using valid deductive arguments or rules until you're in the position to show me that R implies M. So, maybe you've gotten to the point where you've gotten a little bit more comfortable thinking backwards, which is to say you take a look at the conclusion, you think about what you would need to do to get to the conclusion. The advantage of thinking backwards is that it brings the finish line a little bit closer, right? So for example, I know I need R implies M. How am I going to do that? Well, here's T implies M, and here's R implies T. If I could establish that R implies T, then I would be able to use this and this in a hypothetical syllogism, right? So I've just brought the finish line a little bit closer because now I know what I'm trying to do, right? I'm trying to set myself up for a hypothetical syllogism. All right, how am I going to get R implies T? Line 2 tells me that either Z or R implies T is true. I don't know that R implies T is true yet. I know that one of these two things is true. What would get me R implies T? Well, if I had not Z, that would get me R implies T using the disjunctive syllogism, right? If I could establish that not Z is the case, that would give me R implies T because I know one of these two things has to be true. And if I had not Z, that means this is what's true. Okay, I've brought the finish line a little bit closer. Now my job is to establish not Z. Well, all of these are fixed, right? What you need is always there waiting for you. Look at line number 3. Line number 3 says Z implies A. What would you need to get not Z out of line 3? You would need not A. And there it is waiting for you, right? What you need is always waiting for you buried in the premises. Now, if you're struggling thinking backwards, that's still okay. You can still try and work forwards. You can still look for opportunities to draw new information, okay? It's not a bad idea. And then see, maybe when you get closer to the conclusion, you'll see what you might need to do. Okay, working backwards is ideal because when these things get more complicated, working backwards helps. But if you're struggling with working backwards, just look for opportunities to build on what you know. So, we have Z implies A, and we have not A sitting in premise number 1. We want to use not A to get not Z. In order to use not A, I need to take it out of line number 1. In other words, I need to simplify line number 1. Now that I have not A, I'll use not A to get not Z. That's modus tollens on lines 3 and 5. Now that I have not Z, I'll use not Z to get R implies T. That's the disjunctive syllogism on 2 and 6. And if I have R implies T and T implies M, that gives me my conclusion, R implies M. That's the hypothetical syllogism on lines 4 and 7. Okay, so on your quiz or on your final exam, you will have proofs that are a little bit more challenging than this. I encourage you to work through the end of the book, work through the end of the exercises. If you can do those, you'll be doing exercises that are harder than anything on the quiz or on the exam. Good luck.